All right, let's get into it. Today we're talking about something huge, how you can build real, powerful, production-ready AI features right into your Firebase apps using Gemini. If you've ever had a cool AI idea but got stuck on how to actually make it a scalable, real-world thing, then you are in the right place.
So the whole idea we're going to explore today is built on this concept we call vibe coding. And what is that? Well, think of it like staying in a creative flow state. It's all about getting rid of the friction. You know, the annoying boilerplate, the complicated setups, the security nightmares. So you can just focus on building and testing your AI features as fast as humanly possible.
And here's how we're going to get there. First, we'll talk about the promise of vibe coding. Then, we'll get into the three main architectural paths you have to choose from. After that, we'll cover the absolute must-knows for securing your app, then move on to building conversations that actually have a memory, and finally, we'll look at a couple of real-world blueprints to production. Okay, let's get right to the core of it. Your very first, and honestly, your most important decision is picking the right architectural path. This one choice is going to shape pretty much everything that follows. So you've got this great idea for an AI feature. The big question is, which of these three paths is the right one for you and your project? Let's break them down. This table gives you the bird's eye view. You've got the AI Logic SDK for fast client-side stuff, Genkit for when you need serious server-side muscle, and Extensions for ready-made solutions. But look, the most important column here is primary use case. Your goal, what you're trying to build, is what's going to point you to the right answer almost every time.
Let's start with path number 1, the Firebase AI Logic SDK. The best way to think about this is as the express lane. It's for getting AI features into your client-side apps, web, Android, Flutter, you name it, super fast.
Now, the real magic of this SDK is its speed, and even more importantly, its built-in security. It uses this secure proxy service, which means your Gemini API key, your secret sauce, is never exposed on the user's device. It's all managed for you on the server. This makes it absolutely perfect for straightforward things like a simple chatbot or text generation, where you just want to get it working quickly and safely.
All right, on to pathway 2, the Genkit framework. So if the SDK was the express lane, Genkit is like the master workshop. This is where you go when you need to build really sophisticated custom AI machinery.
Genkit gives you total control. It's a server-side framework, and it's pretty much a necessity for advanced things like retrieval augmented generation, RAG, where your model needs to pull in data from outside sources. It's also key for calling other tools and APIs. And another huge plus, Genkit is model agnostic. So you can start with Gemini, but if you want to swap in a model from OpenAI or Anthropic later on, you can do it without having to rewrite your entire application logic.
And that brings us to our third and final option, Firebase Extensions. Think of these as pre-built kits. They're designed to get common AI jobs done with barely any custom code. Extensions are just fantastic for moving quickly. They're basically pre-packaged cloud functions that you configure instead of code. A great example is the Build chatbot with the Gemini API extension. It does exactly what it sounds like. It just watches a Firestore collection, and when you add a new message, it automatically handles all the backend chat logic for you. It's a game changer for standard tasks where you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Okay, so we've looked at the three paths, but now we have to talk about something that applies to every single one of them: security. And let me be clear, this is not just some optional feature. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable requirement.
I just want to pause on this for a second, because this is the golden rule of building with AI. Your sensitive keys, like your Gemini API key, can only be used from a server-side environment. That's it. There are absolutely no exceptions.
And that leads us to the number one most common and most dangerous mistake you can possibly make: embedding an API key directly in your client-side code. Please, just don't do it, ever. It's basically like leaving your house keys taped right to your front door for anyone to grab. So, what's the right way to handle this on the server? You use a service like Cloud Secret Manager, which works perfectly with the Firebase CLI. You create a secret, you tell your app hosting backend it's allowed to access it, and then the key gets securely injected into your app as an environment variable during the build process. It never ends up in your source code, and it's kept safe. Okay, our app is secure. Awesome. Now let's make it smart. We want to move beyond just single questions and answers and build real conversational experiences, apps that can remember what you talked about, reason, and even take action. To build these kinds of agentic apps, you really need two things. First, you need state management, a way for the app to have a memory. And second,
You need a way for it to interact with the real world, to call external tools and other APIs. This ability to call external tools is usually called function calling, and it works in this neat 5-step loop. First, you define a function in your code. Let's say a function to get the current price of a stock. Then, you describe it in a way the model understands. You give this tool to Gemini. Now, when a user asks for a stock price, the model says, hey, I need you to run that function for me. Your app runs the code, gets the price, and feeds that real-time data back to the model. That's how your AI goes from just talking about things to actually doing things.
Now, about that memory. The SDKs are great at keeping track of a conversation while it's happening, but they don't handle long-term persistence. That part's on you. You've got to save the chat history somewhere, like in Firestore. And here is the most critical part. The messages have to be ordered correctly by timestamp. If you load that history back in the wrong order, the conversation becomes total nonsense, and your chatbot will completely break. It's a catastrophic failure.
So, we've gone through the pathways, we've locked down security, and we've given our app a memory. Now let's see how this all comes together in the real world with a couple of common production setups.
These are two of the most popular patterns we see out there. For a big full-stack web app, the killer combo is Next.js, using Genkit for all the heavy AI logic, all running on Firebase app hosting. On the other hand, for a cross-platform mobile app, say built with Flutter, you'd probably lean on the Firebase AI Logic SDK. That way you get that secure, direct connection to the model without needing to build out a whole separate, complex backend.
So if you remember anything from this, remember these 4 things. 1. AI Logic SDK is for speed and security on the client. 2. Genkit is for power and custom logic on the server. 3. Extensions are your shortcut for common tasks. And 4, the most important one, always, always, always manage your API keys on the server.
We've covered a ton of ground here, right? From the whole philosophy of vibe coding all the way down to the nitty-gritty of production architecture. You've now got the blueprints you need to build secure, smart, and stateful AI applications. So really, the only question left is, what are you going to build next?